Hello friends, today's topic is cuts to Medicaid. Let's rant.
Officially cutting healthcare. They're cutting healthcare for roughly 20% of Connecticut's 2nd District because they're cutting Medicare and Medicaid benefits, and they're using some kind of system to disguise it. The Republican Party has introduced a bill to cut Medicare and Medicaid from millions of Americans. To be specific, around 83,000 Americans inside Connecticut's 2nd District use Medicare and Medicaid. And the Republican Party, under the guise of fiscal responsibility, is cutting that benefit. Now, the truth is they're saying it's meant for only truly disabled people, meaning they're going to determine what your disability is and whether your disability qualifies. And they're also making sure that you go back to work. And if you are disabled and can't work, too bad. You're not going to get the Medicare or Medicaid that you deserve, the one that you've paid into, the one that all Americans pay into to make sure you're taken care of. There's so much healthcare issues in this country. The last thing we need to do is touch a healthcare system that helps Americans. My name is Kyle Gauck, and I'm running for Congress in the 2nd District of Connecticut for the United States House of Reps. If you like what I've got going on and you're not following along, you're doing it wrong, please check out the link in the bio. Sign up for the newsletter every Tuesday and Thursday. Check out my website, kylegauck.com. And if you have it, it's a grassroots campaign, no AI PAC money, no corporate money. Please feel free to donate. There's a link in the bio for that too. And if you made it this far, as always, thank you. I love you, and we will definitely talk soon.
So despite Republicans telling us they would not touch Medicaid, surprise, surprise, they lied. This new Republican bill would lead to 8.7 million Americans losing their health insurance. It would then lead to an additional 7 million Americans losing their health insurance over the next 10 years. Medicaid isn't the only major thing this Republican bill intends to cut. It also aims to make several $100 billion in cuts to environmental and climate policy, phasing out things like wind and solar incentives while simultaneously ramping up oil and gas production. Major cuts to things like Medicaid and climate action while simultaneously ramping up our defense budget and militarizing our border. Another $150 billion more towards the Pentagon and $100 billion going towards making a border wall and new detention centers. Here's the thing, Medicaid cuts are extremely unpopular and many House Republicans in blue states are having a hard time endorsing this bill. If you have a Republican House representative, now is the time to call them, contact them, and demand that they not support these cuts and this bill.
Hey MAGA, I know we don't chat much, but I just wanted to do a quick check-in since the Medicaid cut information had been released. Now I know you guys don't like to admit that you use means-tested programs like Medicaid at far higher per capita rates than we do. But you know what? I don't want to fight about that right now. Instead, let's talk about your favorite subject, undocumented people, and the strain you believe that they put on our systems and resources. For the Boomer, Gen X, and Millennial MAGA out there, you may remember Pat Buchanan and Lou Dobbs railing against undocumented people for, among 65 other things, their use of ERs as their primary form of healthcare because they had no access to insurance to get any other healthcare, preventative or otherwise, through any other avenue. So in cities with higher undocumented populations, there were increased strains on emergency rooms because thanks to EMTALA, hospitals are essentially the only place where doctors are mandated to provide you emergency care regardless of your status, insurance, or ability to pay. But back to the Medicaid cuts. With the new regulations and restrictions being proposed by the Republicans, the conservative estimates are that over 8 million people will be kicked off of Medicaid. Other estimates are closer to 13 million. When those millions of people lose their health insurance and their ability to see preventative care doctors, where do you think they're going to go for their health care when things go wrong? If you said the ER, you'd be right. The already strained ERs will be filled by people with conditions that could have been prevented. That's a problem, and it might not feel like your problem until you remember that you don't get to choose which hospital your ambulance takes you to after that 3-car pileup or after that heart attack at Applebee's. Pretty sure your family will be worried about the ER resource strain then, but I don't know, you tell me.
A lot of these Democratic leaders need to understand that any federal program or even the state program that is provided by HSA are all meant to be temporary. It is not meant to be permanent. Here is what AOC has to say about Medicaid.
Because if you live in a rural community, you're going to be hurt too. In New York 23, 25% of people are on Medicaid in this area of upstate New York. Westfield Memorial Hospital will be at risk of closure. UPMC Chautauqua is at risk of closure. Schuyler Hospital at risk of closure. California 23, where 46% of people are on Medicaid. Redlands Community Hospital, at risk of closure if this passes. Victor Valley Global Medical Center, Loma Linda University Medical Center, all at risk.
While AOC is great at trashing the Trump administration for protecting the American taxpayers, here are the provision of the new tax bill as they are related to Medicaid. None are extreme. None of them are hospital closing. All of them are taxpayer friendly. Let's get into it. Number one, it would require work requirements for able-bodied adults. Number two, stricter eligibility verification. Number three, citizen status restriction. Number four, cost sharing requirements. Number five, ban on new or increased provider taxes. Number six, ban on state directed payments above Medicare rates. Number seven, defunding organization offering abortion. But let's break it down deeper. California District 23 is the example AOC listed in her video. 41% of that population are Hispanic. 46% of them depend on Medicaid. Why? These are all common sense, something the Democratic and their rants are missing. No U.S. citizens are targeted. Most of them are tax provision addressing billing issues between the state and Medicaid. Okay, the millions the Democratic are addressing are the illegals allowed entry by the Democrats. Taxpayer cannot fund their Democratic schemes anymore.
This is going to affect so many citizens. What do you think?
So the Republicans in the House are trying their damnedest to get this big, beautiful bill passed. And along with that is $880 billion cuts to Medicaid in the next 10 years. The House Energy and Commerce Committee is tasked with the job of finding those cuts. And this is an article by Politico that goes into detail of how these cuts are going to happen, and the American people are not prepared. If this passes, this is detrimental for over 8 million Americans. The biggest change is they are adding work requirements for people to be able to retain Medicaid. And it would disqualify Americans from getting health insurance at lower costs through the ACA marketplace. So if you're unable to meet the work requirements or your salary or income is right at the cusp where you don't qualify with these new Medicaid requirements, you could go to the ACA and buy insurance and pay a lower cost with a subsidy if your state has expanded Medicaid through the ACA. Every state has done this except 10, so a lot of Americans would fall into that gap. I didn't know this, but the majority of people that are kicked off of Medicaid is because they don't file the paperwork or don't have the resources to renew, which is what the CBO says is the main reason why people are kicked off, not because they're not eligible. And the Congressional Budget Office assumed that they would naturally go to the ACA marketplace, the exchange, and buy a subsidized policy, and there would be no savings. And the big contention is a lot of those Americans are going to fall into that gap. And in this bill, if it passes as is, those people are not able to go to the ACA exchange and buy their own insurance under the subsidy. They would have to pay full price. The conversation that I wish would be having is for people to understand what is involved with cuts. When you cut programs, you don't necessarily just take people off cold turkey. You make it more difficult to qualify or to stay qualified. And that is how you pull funding from programs like this. And it's the same with Medicaid.
We have the Medicaid cuts, an 80-hour per month work requirement for any able-bodied adult without dependents, an increase in eligibility verification from once a year to twice a year. A 5% boost in federal funding that happened during COVID would be removed. Immigrants would be required to show proof of citizenship to receive Medicaid. States that provide it without the proof of citizenship will lose federal funding. It is estimated that over 8 million people will lose health care because of these cuts.
What's the problem with that? Making people actually go out and work? I tried to hire someone local. She was a little bit older than I was, but she didn't want to work more hours or make over a certain amount of money because she would lose her welfare benefits. And unfortunately, I heard that a lot about people. So what's wrong with this new rule? I don't see anything wrong with it.
Hey y'all, real quick. So what do you all think is going to happen when they make these major cuts from Medicaid? Do you think that people are just going to say, you know what, I'm not going to go to the hospital, I'm not going to go to the doctors and lay home and pass away? No, some might, but to the other ones, they're going to begin to utilize the emergency room at your hospitals even more than they are now as their source of primary care. So if they can't go to the doctors and get an appointment because no one's accepting their Medicaid plans, they're going to go to the emergency room. And when you're in there because you have the worst headache you ever had in your life, when your baby fell off the trampoline you ain't got no business having and broke something, you're going to spend more time sitting in the emergency room, even more time than you are now. And do you think that when they save this money that they're intending to save, do you think they're going to get more nurses to care for you all? Do you think they're going to get more doctors to care for you all while you wait in the emergency room and in the hospital? No, it's going to be the same thing. And they're going to overwork nurses more. They're going to overwork the aides more. They're going to overwork the doctors more. I mean, y'all go on. Y'all say what y'all going to say, do what you're going to do, but that's really what's about to happen. But y'all go on. Be blessed.
What do you think? Is this fair? Do we need cuts in this area? Comment down below, and thank you for watching until next video.